Hi, my name is Daphne, and the story I'm about to tell you will remind you of a popular tale. Cinderella, except life is not like a fairy tale. There are no miracles, so you have to work, and work hard and not give up on getting what you want. Welcome to reality, as they say. My father and I lived alone for many years. We were rich, and despite the money, he had many girlfriends. My mother died when I was 3 years old. I remember her, but vaguely. But I vividly remember the day a woman came into our house, Stella. At first, my father introduced her as a friend. So I thought she was a friend. And this friend stayed with us for 1 day, then 2, 4, and then she came out in the morning for coffee in Dad's robe, and I realized that she may not just be my father's friend. Yeah, it wasn't pleasant. What an ambush. But still thought the woman just had nowhere else to go, and that's why we had her. Maybe she got all her stuff stolen. That's why she sometimes wears my father's shirts. But then, a few weeks went by, my father finally said, "This woman will live here forever." I didn't like the fact that I had no choice in the matter, not asked for an opinion, and not even properly introduced. I decided to quip a little. "Dad, but we have enough servants in the house. Why is she here? Daphne, she's not a servant. She's my future wife, so please treat her with respect. I will be going to London soon for work, so please don't be rude and listen to her." His answer made me even more angry. And she just stood there enjoying the way my father had deftly managed me. She was silent at first, a polite goody-goody, but as soon as my father left, she changed completely. At dinner, our cook had prepared my favorite fish, and I ate it with gusto. I sensed that Stella didn't like my presence either, so we ate in silence. "Daphne, do you always chew with your mouth open like that?" "Always. Why?" "I had a dog named Ralph. He used to smack when he ate his food out of a bowl too." "What happened to him?" "I put him down." "Lucky dog. I'd want to die too if I had to listen to your voice." "How dare you, you insolent girl. I'll tell your father." "Let me finish my fish first." I started to slurp louder and louder. She got madder. Eventually, she gave up and ordered the maid to take her supper to the bedroom. The next morning began with a noise. I woke up to her nasty voice, went downstairs, and noticed a commotion in the house. "What in the world is going on here?" I asked, and Stella said that she was doing renovations in our house. "By the way, pack up the bedroom. I want to make it a guest room, and yours will now be downstairs." "What? You have no right. That was my mom's room. I'm not giving it away." "Weird. Your mom slept apart from your dad? So that's why he talks so little about her. He just doesn't have anything to remember her by." "How dare you!" I attacked Stella in front of the maid. I just jumped down the stairs and grabbed her by the hair. Stella yelled. Everyone stood there in shock, and I yanked her gorgeous curls. And they clumped in my hands. "What the?" I asked. And then I looked up at my stepmother. She was standing there in horror, covering her bald head with her hands and screaming, "Ah!" She immediately grabbed a tray from the table and covered the back of her head with it, then ran into the bedroom. I hadn't laughed so much in many years. A couple of hours later, we crossed paths at lunch, and she was already wearing a different wig. I looked at her and laughed. "How's your head? Does it hurt? And I wanted to get you a shampoo set. Does my dad know there's another night lamp in his bedroom? And if I rub your head, will a genie grant me 3 wishes?" I asked various humiliating questions. Stella was silent at first, and then she burst into tears. "If you talk about my hair again, I will make you as bald as I am. Only with my bare hands, you understand?" she said threateningly. And I said, Okay, Stella. By the way, if you go somewhere, my dad won't miss you, because he can ruffle your hair even from a distance." I finished her off. Stella blushed in anger, and I just bolted out of the house. I wondered why my father had fallen for her. There was nothing special about her. And then I understood. She just wanted his money. When Dad came home, I tried to talk to him, telling him my thoughts about his relationship with Stella. But Dad wouldn't even believe me. He also told me not to talk about her hair anymore, if there was even anything to ruffle. Daddy glared at me, And I said to him, okay, I'll shut up. I realized that Daddy wouldn't listen to me, but I didn't want to give him up without a fight either. I was not going to live my whole life this way. I do not want to end up losing my hair like that woman. So I decided to follow her. But after a couple of days, my father said that I had to go to my grandmother's. I was not home for 3 days, and when I arrived home, my room was gone. It had been moved, as Stella had promised. I burst into my father and Stella's room, and they were sitting and discussing something. I jumped at her, screaming. My father tried to calm me down. Daphne, listen, it was Stella's idea, because she was redecorating the house. She wants to change everything. I think her idea is very good. Daddy, not all bald heads have bright ideas. What did I tell you about that? Ugh, honey, she hates me. That goat started bellowing, playing up the resentment, playing the victim, while she looked at me and smiled. I couldn't forgive them for rearranging my mom's room. So I packed my things and told them I was leaving home. My father didn't even stop me. I arrived with my suitcases at my girlfriend's house. She was just living alone with her sister. The parents had gone for a trip. I was desperate. I didn't know what to do. So the friend asked me if I was sure Stella only wanted her father's money and nothing more. Yes, I said firmly. Then my friend Bella suggested I try one option to test the theory. I listened to her plan and I liked it. I waited for my father to leave on another business trip. This time he was going far away, and I called him to wish him a safe trip, which was a week after our flight. I had to pretend that I had cooled down and promised to come home for his arrival. But I came home that same evening. Just then, Stella was sitting at the table, eating dinner and drinking wine. I dramatically fell right down in front of her feet and started hugging them and crying in a way that horrified all the servants. Stella was confused, and I only shouted in fragments, Stella, why didn't you tell me anything? Don't answer. You didn't want to worry me, huh? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's all so unimportant now. My papa, my poor papa. How can we be without him now? Stella looked puzzled. She lifted me off her lap and I rushed to hug her. When she asked me what was wrong, I told her, I know everything. I was going through my mom's things today and found a letter. My dad was writing it for me, apparently. Maybe he wanted to hand it in person, but he forgot and hid it in my old room. My dad has cancer, I said, and started sobbing again. Stella was surprised, but she didn't show it. She was quiet. And then she hugged me and said, Yes, we didn't want to upset you, but I'm making sure we find the best doctors for him, she told me immediately. The next day, Stella went to the hospital. Bella and I followed her, and we paid the doctors in advance to confirm my father's diagnosis. And he, in turn, told her that my father's diagnosis was cancer, but it wasn't so bad if you eat right and take your vitamins on time. But the main thing was not to remind the patient of his illness in any way. My stepmother left the hospital with a smile on her face and then came home. She came up to me to comfort me. I pretended to be a grief-stricken daughter. A couple of days later, my dad arrived and she spun around him more than usual. Dad had a slight cough because of the air freshener, so I sprayed the furniture sometimes to make him cough even more. Stella hoped with every breath he took that it was his last, and Dad was perplexed as to what was going on. I managed to get my grandmother to come over and ask my dad to help settle things. She was in on my plan, and while Dad was busy, she dropped by our house, came up to me, walked past Stella, and said loudly that my father had written his will today. I asked what it was. Stella perked her ears. He will give everything to you and only to you if, the event of his death, you are also 18 years of age. In the event of his untimely death, all his property goes first to his wife, then to you, when you become an adult, Grandma said. I understood it was risky, but I once found some interesting bottles in her closet, and I understood roughly how she was getting married for the 4th time, and what she would do with my father after those words. I followed her like a shadow, even planted a bug in their bedroom. Finally, I heard Stella offer my father some tea. She brewed it herself, and I saw her add something to it, take the tray, and walk toward the bedroom. I knew Stella wouldn't let me die. Because according to the will, I would have to consent to her 20% after my birthday. But that wasn't what was needed in that moment. It was as if I was walking by. I said hello to her, grabbed the cup and she had made for my father, and said, how I want some tea. As soon as I brought the cups to my lips, she knocked the cup out with a punch, yelling, "Don't drink it!" I looked at her and said, "I thought so. There's poison in here." Decided to get rid of my father early. Then my dad came out and asked what the yelling was about. Stella started to deny it, but I pulled out my phone and showed him the video I had taken in her pouring the poison into his cup. Dad was shocked at first, then called the police. His bald love was a femme fatale. She had married 3 times and poisoned all her husbands, taking some of the inheritance. That's how she lived. I mean, her job was stressful. Maybe that's why she went so bald. Well, what about my father? Well, he was crushed, but on the other hand, is grateful to me. He said that I pulled him out of the grave. If you liked the video, please leave a like and comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe.